Okay, are we going live? Here we go. Okay, looks like we're live. And I'm using the Facebook live studio thing, so I believe I'm going to be able to see comments over here. This looks pretty cool. I've never used this before. I wanted to come to you really quick, and I don't intend to spend just a ton of time going super deep on this, but I do want to try to navigate some of this TikTok stuff. And the reason is because this is a big scare. And if I've learned anything, I know, and you should have learned this too by now, that the the government, the media, the politicians, whatever side you're on, don't care. They both are pretty obvious about how they use stuff like this to scare us. Now, that being said, we have to look and be honest about, is there something to be scared of? And I think with this TikTok security thing, I think the answer is yes and no. And so I want to look at what this app actually says and does so that you can understand. The first thing we need to understand is that you have controls in the back end of TikTok that supposedly are supposed to be there to help you protect your data. If you've turned off things like in iOS or in your Android, there's a way to turn off the ability for your phone to hand out your information to third-party apps like TikTok for advertising purposes. You have absolutely a responsibility to figure out how to do that, and I can do it too. I could show you, but I don't remember where it is. But Google it. Go to the University of Google, and you'll learn that really quick. But I wanted to talk specifically about TikTok because last night I was just thinking about it, and I was looking through the privacy policy and actually reading it as to what TikTok's privacy policy says. So let's go, shall we? The main thing that stuck out to me, and I want to clear up some data. So I want to say this, it's going to scare you, and then I want to clear some things up. So here's what I want to say first. What it says right here, and I'm reading off their privacy policy right here. You couldn't see that, but that's what I'm doing. It says, for legal reasons, we may disclose your information to respond to subpoenas, court orders, legal process, law enforcement requests, legal claims, or government inquiries, and to protect and defend the rights, interests, safety, and security of TikTok Inc. The platform, TikTok, are affiliates, users, or the public. We may also share your information to enforce any terms applicable to the platform, TikTok, to exercise or defend any legal claims and comply with any applicable law. So in the news, TikTok CEOs have said, hey, if the Chinese government requests your information, we're going to say no. That's nice and all, but this actually gives them permission to do it anyway, and we've agreed to it. So there is that. However, something to take into consideration, this week, Hong Kong, if you know anything about Hong Kong, this is a crazy history lesson, okay? Let me come back around to this really quick. Until I think 1997, Hong Kong was under British rule. It's a city in the middle of China that is one of the biggest cities in China that is run by the British. So it is a form of a democracy there. And I don't really want to debate all this, but it was a 100-year contract with the Chinese government that at a certain time, after 100 years, the British would turn over Hong Kong to the Chinese government. That happened in about 97, 98, somewhere in there. I can't remember the year. But the transition has been happening. So Hong Kong has kind of been operating as an independent city-state kind of thing inside of communist China as a type of democracy. And now China is starting to crack down and change laws and basically try to turn Hong Kong into a part of its communist, way of thinking. And so that's why you've seen these protests, and you've seen all this stuff happening in Hong Kong recently. They're protesting these kinds of laws, and even the leaders of those protesters have now had to flee the country. So it's nuts. And what's happened is that recently, this last couple of weeks, they passed a law in China that will be enforced in Hong Kong that you can't. It's a freedom of speech suppression kind of law. So it is a way to respond to these protesters and to basically say you can't say negative things about the government. You can't say negative things about the Tiananmen Square incident. You can't say certain things like that. And one of those things was that if you are a company and the Chinese government requests information from you, you now by law under serious penalty have to turn that over. So in response to that, many social media companies have taken their app out of the app store in the China air in the Chinese Apple store. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of these social media platforms have really walked it back big time. And that's the reason why, is because they're like, well, we're not ready to comply with that because we're an American company, right? TikTok's CEO is the ex CEO of like Disney, and he's an American, and there's an American office that runs a lot of TikTok in America. And TikTok is actually the subsidiary company of a company called ByteDance, which is in China. So those companies, ByteDance, TikTok for sure, are have a couple of options, and I think this ban is not really going to happen that Trump is threatening, because we can easily just sell this company and operate it on American soil, and then and fix all this. So I think there are some security issues that we'll talk about here in a second, but I want you to understand the situation of what's going on so that we have context for why this is even happening. And this is important for us to understand as communicators and social media people in the church, especially if you're thinking about TikTok and are afraid because of the security thing. I think there are some legitimate things to be concerned about. However, I don't think they're the kind of things that are being talked about on the news. So when we talk about TikTok, this is what's going on in the back end here. So they could sell this company and operate it. They've said they're not going to give the information over, and they are definitely moving the company headquarters out of Hong Kong and somewhere else. Who knows where? Probably here. So those three things are happening, and so that's kind of a silver lining, positive future type of thing that I'm glad about. I'm glad that's the case. So if you guys have things to interject, feel free to drop them in the comments, because this is a discussion, because I'm not at all like an expert on all this. I've just been reading and trying to figure this out. So I'm giving you my perspective, and I could be wrong on some of this, but this is what I see. So let's talk about a ban on TikTok. Well, let's talk about why there's even a concern. So I asked for some help, and a few people sent me some articles and things. And of the articles, there's only really one that I was like, okay, this is legitimate evidence. There's a dude, what's his name? He's a Reddit user. And what's crazy right now is I have super fast internet, and I'm streaming this video, but I've got 4 blogs open. And of those 4 blogs, there are so many ads running on those blogs that they're going so slow. I have 400 megabytes up and down speed here, okay? And I'm getting it. So, gosh. News, everybody. News sites. This is the problem. So, here we go. There's a user named Bangorolo. I have no idea how to say his name. I have no idea how to say it. But his basic job apparently is, and I think he's been verified as like this is a legit dude. He tests apps to see how they work. He reverse engineers it, and he released this whole deal of all these things he found that says, I can personally weigh in on this. I'll reverse engineer the app. I feel confident in stating I have a very strong understanding for how the app operates, or at least operated as of a few months ago. I don't know if it's changed. It's a data collection service, TikTok is, thinly veiled as a social network. That's probably true, because what I read you already about the privacy policy is a little different than other privacy policies on social media accounts. They wouldn't just outright say, yeah, if a government wants it, we'll sell it. Facebook has been in court. They have screwed up, man. Facebook has been bad about this kind of stuff. They have been in trouble. You've probably seen this. And so we're all been out of shape about TikTok, but Facebook's already done all of this too, and we're still happily using that. So be careful of your own double standards here. But it's not to say that we shouldn't care about this. We should care about both of them, honestly. So he's looking at all these different things of the apps you've installed. Some he's deleted show up in their analytics payload, probably using a cached value. So they're probably looking through the cache. He even showed like how it's trying to use what you put in your clipboard and copy it and put it somewhere. So all of that is very alarming. That is very alarming stuff. Um, and one of the things about this is that it's supposed to have fixed all of this in the latest iOS 14 update on your phone. Should have blocked all of this ability. So that's the story. Check me on that, but I believe that is the case. Is that the iOS, not the first one, but the most recent one that came out, update of 14. It's supposed to stop all this, but it's encrypting all the analytics requests with an algorithm that changes with every update, just so you can't see what they're doing, is what he says. They also made it so you cannot use the app at all if you block communication to their analytics host off at the DNS level. I have no idea what that means. Maybe you're an analytics nerd, you know what that is. So he said, what it's worth, I've reversed Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and Twitter apps. They don't collect anywhere near the same amount of data that TikTok does. And they sure aren't outright trying to hide exactly what's being said like TikTok is. It's like comparing a cup of water to the ocean. They just don't compare. That's pretty strong. So again, this is his opinion, so take it for what it's worth. So I think there is some legit concern here, but there's also the question of what are they actually getting? This could be literally just a super aggressive marketing tactic. If they're not, because I think there's really two questions here. It's what are they getting? And then the other question is, what are they giving to the government? And it's like, if they're getting stuff and they're using it for marketing and selling it, if you don't think that's going on in so many other apps in America, then wake up. That's crazy. But they are asking for a lot more of it than apparently others are. So it's a progression. I think we're moving that way in data, which is scary. But I think that we're all kind of waking up to that fact, and we'll probably pull this back now that most of this is being revealed. And I think that there's going to be a shift. We're swinging too far in one direction. We'll pendulum swing back a little bit. But TikTok apparently is leading the way in how much they're asking for. Now, I will say this, that when you look in the back end of TikTok, there are multiple options for you to shut things down. So who can see your stuff, how much information you share with TikTok analytics, how much, and when you turn off like personalized ads, sharing information to get personalized ads, turn that stuff off, because that's how really, when they say that when you're like talking about something and then suddenly an ad pops up, you're like, oh, they're listening. They say that's why it's doing it. I think they're listening, but they say that's why it's that way. But anyway, that's a whole different ball of wax, as they say, which is a phrase I don't understand. So anyway, there's this one thing. Now there's another one for the Department of Defense saying that they're banning the app for government officials. That I think is wise. When you're, but honestly, I can think about this for Instagram, for Facebook. You're revealing your location. If you're on mission, you're telling anybody who can get access to your account where the military's moving. That should not be okay. This is why we had such the issue with Obama's BlackBerry, with Hillary Clinton using a phone or an email address that wasn't the official government email address. It's like they can't secure those things. Those are breaches of security. And so that's why it's like, let's maybe take a look at social media and view that as a possible security risk as well for government officials. Now, for regular citizens, it's kind of like, it's our data, we can do what we want with it. But they say, do you want them gathering information on your kids? About that, interesting thing I read in the privacy policy of TikTok, and I screenshotted it too, and I'll just upload all these when I'm done. But I think I uploaded that. Yes. Let's make sure. Yes. The privacy, okay, you have to be 13 to have a TikTok. That's the legal age, right? You have to be 13. And even though that's the rule, they have a privacy policy that's separate for users who are under 13. How does that happen? That's what's confusing to me, is if you say you have to be over 13 to use it, well, what are you doing to stop people under 13 from signing up to use it? Like, I don't understand that. So apparently there's a different set of different privacy policy for children under 13 that is much stricter. That's what they said. And there's a link to it. It's called the Privacy Policy for Younger Users. Here's what it says. The privacy of users under the age of 13, called younger users, is important to us. We provide a separate experience for younger users in the United States, that's important, on the children's platform, in which we collect only limited information. For more information on our United States data collection practices for younger users, please visit the Privacy Policy of Younger Users. Okay? So the platform otherwise is not directed at children under the age of 13. No duh. Have you been on it? If we become aware that personal information has become collected on the platform for a person under the age of 13, we will delete this information and terminate the person's account. You know, like Facebook did that first time before they got caught the second time. So if you believe that we have collected information from a child under the age of 13 on the platform, please contact us at privacy@tiktok.com. That's an email address. So anyway, they're basically telling you that, yeah, we're collecting the crap out of your data. If you're a kid, we don't collect as much. I don't know. I didn't read the children's privacy policy. I should. I'll go back and read it. But it is something to consider when asking, should we let our kids on this? I will tell you this, full disclosure, I'm on TikTok. My 14-year-old daughter is on TikTok. And it has been a way for us to really discuss a lot of things going on in the world. So it has, here's where I want to get into, like, here's some positives of TikTok. And let me make sure I covered everything I wanted to do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I pretty much covered all that. So let's talk about the positives. Why would we say that we should keep this? Other than, you know, the selfish things that are like, wow, you can really go viral, or you can really get your message out there, or you can market on it really well. Yeah, you can, because they're collecting a ton of data, because data is the new currency of the day. People would rather have your data rather than your dollar. That needs to be a tweet. Today's business would rather have your data than your dollar. There you go. Somebody tweet that. That's good. So I think that's true. But understanding that, you know, what are some of the things that TikTok does besides be a fantastically rich marketing platform, which it is for sure because it's collecting so much and sharing it so freely. What is good about it? There's been a couple things I think that are good about it that have caused where we are today. The first thing is it's a platform where you're going to see a very, very raw version of reality. I know there's a lot of talk about censorship on TikTok. I've seen stuff that I thought should have been censored when it comes to language or violence that made it through just fine. And because of that, I'll be honest, it is not hard to find videos of, you know, black people being harassed by police or other white supremacist types. It is not hard to find video of cops getting attacked. It is not hard to find videos of Karens gone wild. That's actually a hashtag on there, and it's just women that are being called Karens that are, you know, harassing people for no reason, and so they get labeled that. And so it's also a place for a lot of entertainment, funny stuff, like funny videos, and the voiceovers and music stuff I don't even hardly see anymore. There are also a lot of theology and apologetics type things going on TikTok, where people are putting out information about logical fallacies, information about theology, information, and some of them are right on and really good, and some of them are horrible, bad theology. And so but here's what I'm trying to say. It is a place where it seems like there is an absolutely gloves off, raw, honest discussion about everything going on there. Everything. Nothing is off the table. And honestly, I'm raising Gen Z kids. Gen Z kids roll hard, man. They don't care about any kind of decency, and that's a problem. But at the same time, they don't hide what they think, and they put it out there freely. And part of that, they don't understand the consequences and how you're viewed, and later when you're trying to get a job, what's this going to look like, etc. They don't get all that, but at the same time, it's forcing a culture there of honest dialogue, and it's not always pretty. In fact, it often is not pretty, but it is honest. And I'm realizing that on the other platforms, we are bright and shiny fake a lot. Put our best foot forward. Being it's not Facebook really, not being nice all the time, but we're trying to be a certain image out there. And on TikTok, it's so raw, man. All that stuff that we talk about, like do raw Instagram stories and be more authentic and stuff. TikTok is shaping the culture in that direction, and that's why it's important to kind of know what's going on there. I hardly ever create or post. I hardly ever comment. I really research. I'm watching this app, and I'll spend an hour or two on it easy. And it's because there's so much there going on that I feel like it's a place where I should be there, part of that conversation, just like if Jesus went to the pub. It's like that's what I feel like TikTok is. It's kind of the gutter a little bit, but it's also where I think we should go to bring light. And if that's not your thing and you feel like you can do that, cool. But I understand like there's some value there that we need to understand. There is a ministry that can happen there, even though that discussion is so raw and harsh sometimes. But this is where you're going to see stuff. Like if you're one of those people, okay, let me just say this. If you're one of those people that says all lives matter and you don't understand this racism stuff, go in there to TikTok and just search for some of those things. Search for police brutality. Search for stuff like that. You'll find it. You will find it, and it will not be hard. You will have hours of footage to view, and it will be horrifying, and it will be scary, but it will open your eyes to what they're really dealing with. It also, and for the reverse, if you are a person that's like, I hate cops, you go in there and search and see what they go through and see what they're really like. You're gonna learn some things there too. It's just one of those apps where you can find anything, and it really does give you a wide view of the world. And I think that's valuable right now in a place where everything is so distrusted that that we can't even see straight, that we can't even agree with medical professionals. So it's one of those things where I think it's valuable, and it's got a place here. A couple of things about that. The algorithm of TikTok is one of the stickiest albums I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is that it really does learn quickly, and it changes quickly. There was a time when all I saw on there were basketball clips of dunks and people breaking ankles, and not really, but like when you cross them over and they fall down, breaking their ankles, I think that's what they call it. So finding stuff like that was really fun. There was a time where I was seeing a ton of theology stuff, and now I'm seeing a lot of Black Lives Matter stuff, and I'm seeing a lot of police stuff, riot stuff, things happening like that. So it changes along with kind of what you're starting to see and what you interact with, and it's very, very quick to adapt because they're getting so much information. And so it is one of those apps that you kind of get what you give to it. So it can create a tunnel vision, echo chamber type feeling as well. So you have to be aware, which you should be aware of that anyway with social media. Facebook is really bad about this. Like I noticed there are people in my life that share a lot of fake news from, well, honestly, in my life, both sides. They share things from both sides. I'm like, that doesn't seem true. And it's because their algorithm has only fed them just this point of view, because they've interacted with just that point of view. They've commented on that point of view. They've shared that point of view. And so Facebook's like, oh, you like this? Let me show you some more. And then you start to think everybody in the world is like me. What is wrong with these idiots on the other side? And that's the problem. TikTok does that quicker than anything else I've ever seen. So if you're thinking about, is TikTok dangerous? It says 60% of TikTok users are between the age of 16 and 24. It is a powerful app. You need to pay attention. Should have been paying attention anyway. Pay attention to Facebook. Pay attention to Instagram, because there are a lot of data mining companies where their only job is to buy, sell, and interpret data. I mean, think about that. first, to me, that's the most boring job in the world to me.
I also wanted to get your reaction to
Oh,
this. Now,
and we got a
following the
video that's
Army's
playing
leave, the U.S.
because
Navy banned
why
the
not?
social media app TikTok.
Ugh, I just hate all these ads. I hate it so much. I'm closing all this out. But the point is that you've got so much going on with these companies that are just trying to get data, sell data, share data, get more data, and it's like, what do they need it for? To me, I don't really care if Russia knows what my favorite band is. I don't care. But if they're getting my clipboard and I happen to copy paste some information that's a credit card or somebody's, I've had clients send me pictures of their credit card in a text message for me to buy stuff for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't do that. So, like that kind of stuff happens. And when it happens, that information belongs out there now to somebody who's going to get it. So you have to be very, very careful. Look at your settings, check out your privacy settings, check out your accessibility settings on all your devices with iOS, Android, all your social media. Look at what marketing stuff is being given. Look how your data is being given. You have a right to have it. You have a right to know it. And so you have to be vigilant about these types of things. It'll be interesting to see if this gets banned. I don't think it will. I don't think it should. To me, honestly, personally, I think it's a First Amendment right to be able to say what you want on social media. But if the company is doing, something shady, then they need to be shut down, and that's fair. But I can't help but wonder if this has nothing to do with a little vendetta that the president might have against TikTok right now. If you know this, then recently, what was it, back in June in Tulsa, when he did his rally in Tulsa, it was all over the news about how TikTokers shut that down. Well, what they did was on TikTok, since old people are not on there, the kids got together, and this was an idea from a 51-year-old grandma. She got on TikTok and shared this, and somebody picked it up and was like, yeah, we're doing it. They got tickets to the Tulsa rally and with no intention of showing up. So the president brags about all this and then shows up, and it's not as full as it was, and that's obvious. That's definitely what happened, because there were thousands of tickets that were bought by TikTokers, and they punched a hole in it a little bit, and there's plans to do it again. So this is the kind of thing that is the power of social media, and I can't help but wonder if there's not a little vendetta there. If he might be trying to silence the opposition a little bit. Because if that is really what happened, oh my gosh, I told you, Gen Z rolls hard, man. They don't play around. Oh, it's silly. Oh man, it's so crazy. What a time to be alive, guys. What a time to be alive. So anyway, I do want to say this. I know that lately I've been a little bit more political sounding. I'm really trying not to be. Honestly, I'm looking at the world around me and saying there are some issues. And I'm a moderate. I'm a registered independent, if you wanted to know. I don't care about either side. I hate politics. I think it's kind of stupid. But we need it, and we got to pay attention, and we have to be responsible for it. And so I'm trying to educate myself a little bit better, and hearing things that are coming up and learning about the experience of black people in America, people of color in America. I've taken it upon myself to educate myself, and I hope you will too. I hope you will listen, and I hope that you will learn, because if you've ever gotten to a point in your life where you feel like I'm done learning things, there's nothing else for me to learn on this subject. I already did that. I already did that in school. I got a degree. I'm afraid that's the point where you really stop living. It's just sad to me. I think that leaders are learners. And if you want to be a leader, you should be a lifelong learner, always open to, ideas that could be challenging. You might learn something new. The information may not be new, but it might be new to you. And to hear other people's perspective other than my own is valuable to me. And I hope that it's valuable to you. I know that we live in a world where it's very easy to take. I even posted this today. When you see someone who's strong, you see someone who's gifted, you can respond to that person in a couple of ways. You can either be challenged or threatened by them, or you can see them as an asset. And it's the same way with experiences and worldviews. It's like you see somebody that's different than you, who's lived in this country and grown up a different way, and it's nothing like yours. It's nothing like how you did. If they have some stories that you go, that can't be true, instead of saying that can't be true, maybe it is true. It's just not true for how you've lived, and their experience has been different. And listening to them and understanding them can be really, really enlightening to what we should do that is best for everyone. Because it is about everyone, isn't it? I mean, politics are not. It should not be our religion. Politics should not be our religion, and I think it's becoming our religion. It's definitely infusing in our religion. I think we've got uh, different ideals that we're viewing as moral issues that are not they're not being fueled by theology. Our theology is being shaped and changed because of our ethical, moral view of politics, and it's being infused into what we think. Um, and I think that I see that on all sides of the spectrum for what's going on right now. To be honest, I really do. I see left and right people committing that regularly. Is that we're taking what we feel is right and finding scripture to support it, instead of reading scripture to see what's right and voting and trying to change the world into that. And understanding that about the world. So I hope you hear that from my heart, that if we don't have empathy for each other, we're doomed. And it should start from people who are those who claim to follow Jesus. And so when your response to someone's horrible experience, they tell you about it and they say, this is terrible, your response is to try to explain it away or make it seem like it's not that big a deal, or that's just not the empathy we ought to lead with. I don't say you have to agree with everything. We need to talk about it, but you need to have the empathy. Lead with empathy. Gosh, what a terrible world it would be if we can't do that. So I'm preaching now. I'm sorry. So this was about TikTok. Hopefully you'll do your homework, check it out, read it. Hopefully that was helpful. Anyway, I'm probably going to upload this to YouTube as well, so we can talk more further. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good night. Have a good one. See you later. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to end this. Here it goes. Big red button. End live video. And bye.